Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. Hello, Profit Boss. Today we are talking about real estate. We're talking about qualifying for a mortgage to buy real estate. We're talking about writing and strategizing that offer in a competitive market type situation. I don't know where you live or what housing is like there, but more and more geographies are having competitive real estate markets. So it's important to understand what's happening when you make an offer and how to strategize so that you're the one whose offer gets accepted. This is a repurpose of an episode I first published in 2017 after my husband and I bought our home, sort of surprisingly and against our will. You'll hear me talk about in the episode how we were renting and we were happy renting, and that the folks who owned the house we were renting decided to sell it. And so that is one of the major downsides of being a renter, is that, you know, if your landlord never sells the property, fine, then you can just continue to stay there. But you're sort of at their whim, right? And here we were with this baby, and I just really didn't want to have to move again. So we decided to buy, and we hadn't really even been strategizing to qualify for a mortgage. So it was kind of a miracle that the paperwork and the financials came together to qualify us for that mortgage. So you'll hear me talk about all those details in the episode. First, we just passed tax day. So as I record this, it's April 22nd. This episode will air on the 26th. Tax day was April 15th. And so many of you, well, I know some of you filed extension because you didn't get your taxes done in time. Some of you were really disappointed in the impact of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act on your tax situation. You have a tax surprise. A couple people in my life are talking about that tax bill. And some of you maybe were part of the number of Americans. The media is reporting that 80% of Americans had a decreased tax bill. So whatever happened is what happened, and now we have to make sure that you're set up for next year. Now, this is something you should have done, but I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about IRAs. So you should have done this in January of 2019, but we want to make sure that you're set up to contribute the most you can to tax-deferred accounts. Reason being is that that's one of the biggest tax breaks Congress gives you, and so you should take it. And it's like literally taking money out of Uncle Sam's pocket and putting it back in yours. So it is free money to you. You should take it. And you can set these payments up so that they're happening every month or every paycheck. They're just a small amount each pay period, but they add up to big lump sums over time. Okay, so let's talk about Ira Contribution Limits. So first of all, you can't just contribute an immeasurable amount to an IRA. Congress says you only get to contribute a certain amount. So for Roth and traditional IRAs in 2019, the contribution limits are $6,000 per year if you're under age 50, or you get a catch-up contribution of $1,000 if you're 50 or older. So that's $7,000 to a Roth or traditional IRA in 2019. But both traditional and Roth IRAs have pretty severe restrictions in certain circumstances. The amount you can contribute to a Roth IRA is reduced and eventually eliminated at higher incomes. So we'll talk about what those incomes are. And you can always contribute the full amount to a traditional IRA, but your ability to deduct contributions can be reduced or eliminated if you or your spouse has a 401k or another retirement plan at work and contributions are made for the plan year. So let's talk about the details for that. So first, let's talk about your ability to contribute to a traditional IRA. So let's say you're married, filing jointly, and in 2019, you have a modified adjusted gross income. That number is calculated on the first page of the federal tax return form, the 1040, of $103,000 $1,000 a year or less. So now that means you can take a full deduction for either that $6,000 or $7,000 amount. Now you have a partial deduction if your modified AGI is more than $103,000 but less than $123,000, and you cannot take a deduction for additional traditional IRA contributions if you are married filing jointly and your combined modified AGI is over $123,000. So that means if that's your situation, you need to max out those 401k contributions, which are deductible. You just don't get to deduct more contributions to a traditional IRA. Now, let's say you're single or head of household and you're covered by a retirement plan at work. Those three kind of brackets that we just discussed, you can, interestingly, how are you going to save $19,000 in a 401k plus another $6,000 if your modified AGI is only $64,000? I don't know, but these are the limits they give us. Okay, so you can go ahead and make a full deductible traditional IRA contribution if your modified AGI is $64,000 or less and you're single head of household. Your ability to take that deduction phases out between $64,000 and $74,000 of income, and you cannot take an additional deduction for a traditional IRA contribution if you're making $74,000 or more. Okay, so I just covered married filing jointly and single head of household. Now let's talk about Roth IRA contribution limits for 2019. If you are married filing jointly, you can make the maximum contribution if you make less than $193,000. Your ability to contribute to that Roth IRA is phased out between $193,000 of income and $202,999. Again, I'm saying income, but in this case, it's always modified AGI. That's the number that you're looking at. So it phases out between $193,000 and $202,999, and you are not eligible to make a Roth IRA contribution if you have $203,000 or more of modified AGI as a married taxpayer. Now, let's do those numbers for single head of household. So you can make a full Roth IRA contribution. Those Roth IRA contributions, by the way, are not deductible. So you pay income on the contribution the year you deduct it. You never pay income tax on those amounts again. So if you make less than $122,000 in 2019, you can make a full Roth IRA contribution. Your ability to contribute is phased out between $122,000 and $136,999 of modified AGI, and you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA if you make $137,000 or more. Now, many of you know that there is no limitation on converting a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. Let's say you were to convert a $100,000 traditional IRA balance to a Roth. Well, that $100,000 goes into the Roth IRA, but now you have to find $25,000 or $28,000 or $30,000 to pay Uncle Sam because that's now taxable income. So yes, you can convert, but you do have to be prepared to pay the tax. Couple things to know about IRA contribution limits. You generally cannot contribute more than you earn. So for example, if your earned income, taxable compensation for the year is $4,000, that's also your IRA contribution limit. Also, if you're a non-working spouse, you can have what's called a spousal IRA as long as your spouse earns enough to cover the contribution. So if you both want to contribute the max to an IRA for 2019 and you're both under 50, if your spouse earns at least $12,000, that covers the $6,000 annual maximum for each of you. So then you can do that. You can have your own IRA even if you aren't working. So that's going to come in handy for some of you. Okay, well, that's not a complete treatment of IRAs and Roth IRAs and your ability or the ways that you can save in tax-deferred ways, but I hope that it helps and gets you started. If you're going to take action today, just go ahead and open up that IRA or Roth IRA account at one of the various institutions. Take the $6,000 divided by 12 months is $500 a month. So set up $500 a month to go into that account, and it's kind of set it and forget it. That's the way to get started building your wealth. And we've been talking a lot about building your wealth on Profit Boss Radio. The last 2 episodes have been about the 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience Coaching coaching program. It's been really exciting to see your applications for that program come in. We're building this year's cohort. I don't know that there's a ton of room left. So if you're thinking about applying, definitely reach out. Go ahead and click that link in the show notes for today's episode. Just go to hillaryhendershot.com/141. The program website is at 50kwealthmultiplier.com. You've heard a lot about this program. It's an awesome program. We're building your wealth hand in hand with you. Really going to transform your total money operating system. You're going to not even know yourself when it comes to being just a complete whiz at building wealth. So that's the intention of this program. For many of you, owning your own home will be a critical part of your wealth building journey. So today's episode is designed to empower you to understand the mortgage application process. I also talk about why mortgage debt is definitely not bad debt, tips to make sure you can qualify for a mortgage when it's time, and also negotiation secrets for that multiple offer situation. Enjoy. How to buy your dream house in 28 days in a seller's market without multiple offers. As you know, if you've been following along, my husband and I just bought a house, and I wanted to share that story with you. I got really inspired. I invited a couple experts to have a panel discussion with me. We're going to air that episode next week. And those experts are a mortgage expert and a real estate expert, and then, me. So there's three of us. And I thought I would take a week and just real quick tell you the story of how we did what we did. Basically, I went from not even knowing that I was going to move to owning a home in 28 days. So pretty incredible, and thought I would share some of those secrets with you. Basically, we were living in a rented home in the San Francisco Bay Area, very expensive, but real estate here is very expensive. And we had let the owners of that home know that we definitely wanted to stay there for either 3 or 4 more years. I had got myself kind of attached to not owning real estate. I didn't want to pay the premium to buy a home here. And, I will share with you, it's a matter of public record, purchase price for a home and mortgage amounts and things like that. The home that we purchased is $1.72 million, and we have a $1.2 million mortgage on that home. Actually, our monthly payment, sort of apples to apples, when you take everything, all the tax deductions into account, is about the same. So it's not a significant discount either way. And I know that there are some personal finance experts out there, one in particular, I'll call him the get out of debt king, who rail against debt of any kind. And I will just say, look, I've talked about this before. I'm really not going to go into it in depth in this episode. I'm just not even going to entertain the conversation that mortgage debt is bad debt, especially in an environment like this where mortgage rates are still in the 3s. It's ludicrous to really even think that you should pay off your home when there's so much more that you can do with that money. You can pay the bank 3 and something percent to give you your money back to you and let you invest it and earn a higher rate, which is what my husband and I are very confident that we can do. So we took the maximum mortgage. I don't mind sharing with you that if we had to, we could have paid cash for the house, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted a big mortgage. So we were able to do that. And first I'm going to tell you the story of how we got the mortgage, and then I'll tell you the story of how we got the house. So first of all, the day I got notice from the property managers, first I cried. We had negotiated a 60-day notice to vacate into the contract. So it was late March, and they said you have to be out late May. Well, we have a vacation planned to Spain. I didn't want to cancel my vacation because it's anchored around a conference. In order for it to be a tax deduction and a business expense, we can't move it, right? So frankly, I need a vacation, and I just didn't want to move it. So I asked them, can we have till June 1st? They said no. I got angry. I cried a little, and then we got right to moving. And I basically emailed a friend of mine. Many of you know I used to be in mortgage lending. And so I have friends in the biz. And so I emailed the gal that I've been referring clients to for many years. And I said, let's start the process. And so she's with Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo is a portfolio lender, which means they lend their own money. They're what we refer to in the biz as an A-paper shop, pretty much. They want borrowers with great credit scores, with lots of documentable income. And if you don't fit their profile, you might still be a great mortgage borrower. They just aren't going to take a risk. So they have really strict underwriting guidelines. And, right away, so she's great. My friend who was my mortgage lender, she's fantastic, but she has to go by Wells Fargo's rules. And because we're business owners and we are on extension for 2016 taxes, means we haven't filed our taxes yet. We filed an extension we'll file in October of this year. They were asking for so many documents, and their document transfer protocol was really cumbersome and frustrating. I got so frustrated with it that I actually had one of my team members do it for me because I was like, I'm going to, burn the house down if I have to ask for, deal with another expired secure link. And so I just wasn't, to put it spiritually, I wasn't getting a good vibe. When it was a couple of days went like that, and we were back and forth on documents that were required. And I just thought, if there were signs on the road saying, is this going to work out or not going to work out? I was starting to feel like it wasn't going to work out with Wells Fargo through no fault of the loan officer, right? But, how it works is they have these silos, and you get to talk to your loan officer. The loan officer collects the documents, and then the loan officer gets to talk to the underwriter. The underwriter is the person, and it is a person, who says whether the borrower matches the loan's guidelines. And there's a reason you don't get to talk to the underwriter, because they don't want that person swayed by you at all. So it's a formal process, highly document heavy, especially after the financial crisis. And so I wasn't feeling it. And so we, at the same time, had gone through, there's a real estate agent who is a client of mine. He and I went to business school together, and he and his wife have moved out to Houston, Texas. So he's out in Houston. He's not doing real estate anymore, but I reached out to him first, and he has a partner here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we were just going to work with that person. The reason I didn't work with Aaron Hendon, who is the real estate expert that I have on for next week, is because Aaron's in Seattle and I needed a local agent. I would definitely have worked with Aaron. He's fantastic, but it wasn't an option. So we're working with a real estate agent. I said to him, I need another lender. I'm not sure it's going to work out with Wells Fargo. And he refers me to someone that he's very used to working with. And she went right to work for me as well. And so in the beginning of the process, most of you know the mortgage lender and the real estate agent do not get paid until the end of the transaction. So that first part is very labor intensive, and both lenders are collecting documents for us, and I'm above board. I let them know that I'm shopping or that I'm, not committed to one lender. And they, of course, don't like that. And of course, they shouldn't, right? Nobody wants to do work for free. And I get it, but I felt that it was necessary given we didn't have any time. There was no wiggle room, right? I need a house, and therefore I need a loan, and I need to be sure someone's going to give me a loan. So I have to act in my own self-interest. I think the best way to do this, and you'll hear Jen say this next week, and you'll hear me say it, is if you're going to buy a house and you have time, you should start with the mortgage lender. Get pre-qualified, not just pre-qualified, but pre-approved, which means the underwriter has looked at your documents and said, yeah, everything you say is true about your financial life is true. I'm ready to give you a loan for this amount. This is what I think your interest rate will be. You can go shop for a house. And I call that license to shop. We never had a license to shop. I had to earn the license to shop and shop at the same time. Okay. At one point, we had made an offer, and you have to get a pre-qualification, and I'll tell the making an offer story after I get finished with the loan story. But we had to get the pre-qualification to make the offer, and lender number two, the lender who doesn't work for Wells Fargo, worked really hard to get us a pre-approval letter, and we did get into contract. And at one point, about a week after that, I got an email from, I forget how she was made aware, but lender number two, and I felt like I had been above board, but there was a lot going on. And she emailed me and copied the real estate agent and said, I hear you might be working with two lenders. That's not good. It's going to hold up the process. I've done all this work for you. I worked for you late on a Friday night, and I'll be honest with you, I really didn't appreciate that. I can recognize that her interest and my interest in the transaction are different. And I didn't really appreciate the guilt trip. I felt like it was pretty unprofessional. And then a day later, we got I think I got a call or an email from the agent that we were working with, the real estate agent. And he sort of echoed the same sentiment. Why do you have two lenders in the transaction? This might hold us up. I don't really think you should do this. Lender number two, basically the one he had referred us to, had stayed up late on a Friday night working for us. And I guess he wanted to know if we had any questions. Well, I really did not like this. So I want people who work with us to have their incentives aligned with us. And I didn't understand why I shouldn't have two lenders in the process. So I actually reached out to my client, who is a real estate, as I said, an agent. Well, he's a real estate expert and he lives in Houston. I called him up and I said, why am I getting this pushback? Well, it turns out things have changed a little since I worked in the business, and now you can't use one appraiser for two lenders. So we were going to be on the hook for two appraisals, about $600 each. But he said, really, you can keep two lenders in the game, but you do have to make a decision at some point. Well, we knew that. And so I asked our agent, are you somehow financially incented to have this lender number two in the game? I don't understand why I'm getting this email from you. He completely apologized, sort of righted himself in terms of, I guess, where he was aligning his best interests. And, we let lender number two know, we do have two lenders in the game. We've been above board with you about that. We are not sure that Wells is going to be able to give us a loan, but we had kind of compared rates. At that point, Wells Fargo was quoting us 3.25, and this other lender was quoting us, I think, 3.875. And so that's a big enough spread that it's well worth paying $600 for another another appraisal to see what happens. We still weren't sure what was going to happen. So, I just really felt like it was important to share with you how I had to check with the professionals that were advising me. I trust you as my agent to act in my interest, and I need to understand why you're asking me this question. So we got on the same page. At the end of the day, lender number two, about a week after that, she emailed us and said, I need to know, I'm your lender. If you still have your application in with Wells Fargo, I'm going to just budget my team's time professionally. And basically she was saying either you need to commit to me or I'm out. And I could get that. I didn't think that it would go that way. And I really felt strongly that that was our indicator that we should stay with Wells, that we had done most of the paperwork at that point. And I reached out to the Wells Fargo lender and I said, how are you feeling about this? And, she did hedge her bets, but I felt that email from lender number two was our sign to go ahead and let her take a knee. And ultimately, Wells Fargo did approve the loan. So we got a rate of 3.25% and felt like that was a huge success. And I can completely understand the other lender not wanting to spin her wheels or spend time. But ultimately, I'm auditioning for jobs all the time. Whenever I spend time with a prospective client, that person can say no. And if they say no, they don't owe me money. And that's just the nature of entrepreneurship. And, on a personal level, it was hard for me. I'm not emotionless, but we felt that it was the best for us, and it did work out the best for us. So now I will tell you the real estate story. So the day we got notice that we needed to move, as I said, that night was crying. I really didn't want to move. I didn't want to move in a rush. I didn't want to give up my vacation to Spain. I had to collect myself to be ready to play the game, right? My husband opens up his laptop, gets on Redfin, starts searching for comparable properties, and he says, guess what house just went on the market? Well, when I met my husband, I think it was 2011. I think that sounds right. It was late 2010 or 2011. He was living in a house that had he didn't have it furnished well, but it had this beautiful backyard. And we sort of spent a summer getting to know each other and laying by the pool and, making margaritas. And we had always sort of harkened back to that house. We referred to it as the pool deck because it's so beautiful. I mean, to me, it's like a boutique hotel pool deck. It's just gorgeous. These beautiful palm trees and potted plants and ivy crawling up the wall of the house, and just amazing. Somebody really put a lot of love and care into that backyard. Well, that very house had been listed for sale that day. And I'll tell you, it felt like a ton of synchronicity. And we knew at that point that unless something major had changed, we would make an offer on that house. But yet, as a buyer, I will tell you, your number one marching orders are don't get attached to a piece of property. So we needed a choice B and a choice C. We had our choice A, we needed a B and a C. And so we went looking and we found a house just a mile and a half away. We had some other plans, but they're in terms of, let's call it house A, and is the one he used to live in, the pool deck house. And then house B was another house that was very similar to the pool deck house. It also had a pool. However, it was vacant. The owners had moved out and they had staged the house. So it actually showed much better than house A. And we made some strategic choices and they ultimately got us what we wanted. And so that's what I really wanted to share with you in this episode. We knew that we would have been equally happy in house A or house B. Even though house A was special to us, we can't let that get in the way. And for those of you who have seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, this negotiation strategy takes a cue from the Nash theorem. In that movie, A Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe explains to his friends in a bar who are all planning to compete for the attentions of a particularly beautiful blonde who is there with her friends. And I will include a link to this scene in the show notes at hillaryhendershot.com. John Nash explains to his friends that if they all go for the blonde, their top choice, and ignore her friends, then they all block each other and they offend the other girls, leaving them all alone at the end of the night. Whereas if they ignore their top choice, the blonde, and flirt with her friends, actually they all have a much better choice of something that will, chance at something that will ultimately make them happy, right? So we knew that house B was showing better. And the way making a real estate offer works is if you have an offer outstanding on one house, you can't then make an offer on another. You cannot have two outstanding offers at one time. So house A was taking offers on Tuesday night, and house B, by no accident, the listing agent decided to take offers on Wednesday. So he wanted people to choose house A or house B because from the perspective of the listing agent, the more people making offers on his house, the higher the purchase price is going to be. And he won that game. So we made a timed offer on house A. We said you have until midnight on Tuesday night to decide. And that meant we had to be willing not to get it, right? That means if our offer is timed, then if we don't come to a conclusion by Tuesday night, we're out. And that means we don't get this house. But we knew that a rash of offers was going to come in on house B, and we wanted to be ready. We also wanted to incentivize the seller of house A to make a decision and to decide in our favor. And he did get, I don't know, maybe you can hear the baby in the background. I'm literally sitting here in the middle of a room full of boxes in my new house. By the way, this is the closest Profit Boss Radio will come to being live radio. I'm recording this the day before it's supposed to air on my headset because I have no idea where my professional mic is. So this is as real as it gets, folks. So we made that timed offer on house A, and the seller came back and said, you offered 1.7. The house was listed at 1.7. He was really hoping that, it really is a seller's market. In the San Francisco Bay Area, homeowners are accustomed to getting significantly more than they list the property for. I mean, it's just like a foregone conclusion that, even here, like I said, a lot of people are even paying all cash. So it's pretty incredible what's happening in terms of real estate in this area. So he was expecting it to get bid up a little bit. He had some lowball offers, but he asked us basically to sweeten the deal a little bit. He was hoping that, his listing agent told us that he was hoping to get 1.74. We didn't want to go to 1.74, so we went to 1.72. So we sweetened the deal by $20,000, but we were prepared to do that. Understand, when we made the offer, we were expecting to go to negotiate up. That's a key too. You have to not start at your top dollar amount that you want to pay. And he accepted the offer.
And, Robert and I managed that process. I was at a meeting downtown. He was in New York City on a business trip. We were managing it by text and phone call with our real estate agent. It was pretty incredible. And we got our house. And then to follow up on that, the next day, exactly what John Nash was trying to prevent happened to his friends who all wanted to, quote unquote, bid on the sexy blonde, happened to house letter B, the next day, which is that everyone who didn't make an offer on house A then made an offer on house B, and it got bid up $100,000. So we saved ourselves $80,000, and that's nothing to shake a stick at, and got the house that we wanted by playing the strategy game. So next week, you're going to hear expert advice from Aaron and Jen. I have a top loan mortgage originator and an award-winning realtor set up to talk with you about best practices. I wouldn't necessarily say that if I could design the home buying process, we would do what we did. But, here I am sitting just a few feet from my new gorgeous the pool deck. Many of you in the Profit Boss Facebook group have seen pictures of it. It's really amazing to have accomplished what we've accomplished. And I will say that financially speaking, what Robert and I were doing in the years preceding what happened that got us the home, we didn't even know that we were preparing to take a mortgage, because as entrepreneurs, oftentimes we don't pay ourselves a lot because we don't want to pay income tax. But Robert and I don't do that, because in order to maximize our personal wealth, we have to put that money in personal accounts. And we know that. So that means you have to pay the income tax on everything that you can't save in a tax deductible way. And ultimately, that really, really paid off for us. So, but that said, a better strategy would have been to take it slow, to do things in order, go to the mortgage lender, get the pre-approval first, only work with one mortgage lender. You're going to hear Jen talk about that, how you should commit to your mortgage lender. And I agree, but you have to get that pre-approval. And they're going to talk about some other things to be aware of and to watch out for, especially the mistakes you need to make sure that you don't make. So I hope you enjoyed this story of how I purchased a house my dream house in 28 days. In a seller's market without multiple offers. And next week, we have even more to finish up this series on how to buy your dream house.
I am so excited to announce that the 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience Coaching Program is back, ladies. Do you want to increase your wealth by $50,000 in the next 2 years? Of course you do. Just imagine the peace of mind. Imagine the freedom and security. As successful women, we want to see our work translate to living the life that we want. But the reality is that too many of us feel trapped by our finances. If you struggle to experience true peace of mind when it comes to your finances, if you're an entrepreneur and feel tied to your business because cash flow is unpredictable, if you want better control of your money, but right now you doubt your ability to handle wealth responsibly, your reality can start to change now. What if I can show you how to begin experiencing sustainable growth in your financial life in the next 7 months? Would you accept my invitation? Imagine being informed, confident, and in total control of your finances through a proven financial automation system. Imagine creating financial security and growing your net worth. If you're ready to ignite your wealth-building future, you may be a candidate for my 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience. I'm opening registrations for the second year of this successful program in April of this year, 2019, and the opportunity is only open to a select group of applicants. The 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience coaching program will run from June to November of 2019. If I take you on, it's because I believe I can show you how to create a $50,000 difference in your net worth in 24 months' time. I'm going to ask you to work though. This program has a community element, so I'll ask you to meet with me and the other women in your cohort in San Jose, California, 3 times over the 6-month program. You get 7 one-on-one coaching calls with me, 7 calls with my team to organize your finances and make sure you're staying on track, and we will be there with you, supporting you every step of the way. Together, we're going to transform everything about your financial life, the way you talk about money, the way you think about money, the way you handle money, and the way you grow your money. It's immersive. We're also going to open up your bank accounts and set up my proven automation system, and then my team and I are there for you throughout the program and beyond if you choose to make sure the plan is working for you. The first step is to apply. You can find the link at 50kwealthmultiplier.com. That's the number 50 and the letter K and wealthmultiplier.com. Once again, 50kwealthmultiplier.com. You should know that no results are guaranteed. Just like any coaching program, you have to take new actions to produce new results. Take Danica, for instance. She increased her annual income by $400,000. Layla increased her net worth by $70,531 just over the course of the 6 months we were together in the program. Lucy started with a net worth of $65,000, but by the end of the program had grown her net worth to $111,000. And you want to know something? You can experience meaningful results in your financial life too, if you're ready and willing to do the work that's required of you to multiply your wealth. I'll be looking forward to receiving your application for the 50K Wealth Multiplier experience.